Good morning or evening or afternoon, everybody. My name is Mat Voyce, and I'm here for a very quick session to talk about animated stickers and to welcome you into the world of animated type and moving lettering. So, quickly about me, I call myself your friendly neighborhood type animator. Now, under that title comes type animation, type illustration. If it's type and lettering and moves, it's my world. I make it live, I give it character and personality. So over the last 4 years of being an independent designer, I have engrossed my life and my professional career in moving type, coming up with different styles and methods and techniques to bring lettering to life. Every piece is always very different and always has a lot of different characteristics, but the core sort of reasoning behind it is to make type feel like it's alive. It's to bring it personality and to give it more than just a quick glance on a screen. It's bringing it to life and just giving more. And type is everywhere. You see it on TV adverts, walking down the street. So being able to bring that to life is pretty cool. It's pretty special. So to quickly summarize, I specialize in 2D type design and animation. My style mixes illustration with texture and type and motion. And I'm known for my personality-filled and character-driven typography. And the best thing is I get to do this for clients and teams globally, which is pretty damn amazing. So, animated stickers. When uh, I started out with animated stickers. It was the very first thing that I started creating before I sort of made the leap to be an independent designer. So these little stickers are the little things that you see on social media. You jump on Instagram, put up a story, click on the gift tab. These are the little things that pop up. Now, there's hundreds and hundreds of people making these across the world and across the globe, all the very different styles. But for me, I went the type route. So each piece is a very short, sometimes 4 to 6 seconds piece of moving type with a different message. Sometimes they can be celebrating global days like Earth Day. They could be celebrating new months. They could be random things like type for the NFL or the Super Bowl. Christmas, lots of Christmas stuff, snow, weather, basically you name it, we can apply type to it. So these are really short little pieces of fun moving type that are then used as social stickers on different platforms like Instagram, Snapchat, all over the place. And this is where I started. This is what I started making. I started off making these really simple, fun little stickers. And over time, just sort of extended my sort of remit of moving type and tried different things. So what I wanted to do today is to quickly show you a really quick run through of making one simple piece of type, bringing it to life and making it a sticker, basically. So let's go straight into Illustrator. Now, most of the time I kind of just work to a standard artboard size, which for me is 1400 pixels. This is always key for me because then it's not under 1080, so it's not going to get downscaled. So basically, I'd go for anything upwards of 1080 now. Whatever I'm designing, it's bigger than better. So I still do use the type tools quite often, and you know, it's always as simple as typing a word. So seeing as this is like a nice creative session to either kick off your day or, start something new, I'm going to just go with the word morning. Really simple and really fun. Now, whenever I'm doing this, I know I want the movement to be very quick and have lots of like movement and personality in a very short succession. So I want to kind of do something that's going to morph this or something that's going to express this and stretch this and make it feel like it's got emphasis. So I'm thinking if I can make this maybe change weights and it could maybe stretch at the same time with a few strokes and a few sort of illustrative details, that could be pretty cool. So fonts, where do we start? Everyone scrolls through, scrolling. I'm going to go for something that I know is in the Adobe fonts list, and that is Hoss. It's a wonderful font by Mark Casano. Check it out, download it, play with it. But the reason I'm going to choose this is because it's nice and curvy. It's got these nice smooth edges, and it's a nice font to be able to change weights and to animate sort of morphing and giving it sort of that character and that personality. So my idea for this is to basically have this font. We'll add a stroke to it. It's to have this font morphing from this state to this state, whilst also maybe adding some other effects. And I might add a little sun icon in. We'll see. We'll see where we get to. But the first stage is to try and bring this to life and then to work out how it's going to change weights. So whenever I'm doing something like this, I do often kind of roughly plan it in Illustrator. And when I say roughly plan, that is quite literally just typing out the word. Sometimes it's custom type, so it's a bit more sort of editing of the type. And other times it is quite literally just writing out the word and then dropping it into After Effects. So I would know, I've got a really simple word, morning. I'm going to outline this. I'm going to add some stroke curvature to it. So I'm going to make sure my caps are round. I don't have any caps here. Caps are kind of, if you have a loose end, you see here, if I have a loose end and I change my cap, it's going to give me a nice round cap. So just out of just, force of habit, I always make sure I have rounded caps and rounded corners. So this is then going to give the rest of my stroke more of like it's going to feel like it's part of this font more so. So I'll curve these in. So it's going to give me these nice smooth edges around here. So I know that this is the kind of state and that's the kind of effects that I want to have. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to go back to my live font. I'm going to paste my style up here so I know what it is that I'm going for. And then to make this sort of change weights and to morph, I'm going to copy and paste this in place. And this technique doesn't always work for every font. That's one thing to be clear for here, because it all depends on how a font is created. So for some fonts, when you shift between different weights, they may add in lots of different points to sort of thicken a font or to give it that extra bold weight. And some fonts, luckily, designed and created really sort of efficiently and really well. So they use the exact same amount of vector points. So for this, I'm talking, if I bring this down here, give myself an M here and give myself a light M. If I now outline these and press A, you can see I have the exact same amount of points used to build each letter. So that means that when I'm going to sort of animate this in the technique that I'll use, we're going to be looking for those points and then basically just copying where the points live now and where the points live in this side. And that's then going to give us the sort of blowing up effect, the sort of morphing effect. It makes it a lot easier, but like I said, it doesn't work for every font because fonts are all built differently. But the key thing here is like, I'm going to have my two different fonts here. I'm going to add a bit of color to this one just so I can see. Let's get it back to there. We'll go light blue. So this looks like a mighty mess right now, but the way of bringing this into After Effects is going to, show you why. So if I now centralize these, so the effect I'm going to use, it is going to take the vector points as they are and where they are in this very document, and it's going to then shift them into After Effects and make sure that they're in the same place. So that when I do tend to morph from one weight to another, our letters aren't going to go all jumbled around. They're not going to shift around the screen and go kind of crazy. They're going to sit in the same place and look like they are morphing and sort of thickening in the same place. So I'm going to make sure I have my character styles the same. Let's choose another color. We can get rid of this number now. And if we hide off this one. So I'm happy with that. That looks great. It's in a good place. I'm going to outline that and leave it as that. And then I'm going to bring back in my thicker weight. I'm going to outline that. So these are my two now morphing states. Blue for the morning isn't quite the kind of color I want to go for. So I'm going to just shift a gradient in it. And I think because it's the morning, I want like a nice yellowy, orangey gradient. Let's bring this to the front. This is the one it's doing it on. We're going to look for like nice, we're getting there, see like these nice sort of morning colors that sort of tie into the language of like a sun rising or a sun coming up. No green, let's just go a bit brighter. And then go a bit deeper here with the red. Yeah, this is looking nice. So kind of like imitating a sunrise or even like a neon sunrise. That's quite cool. But we're going to go red. We'll keep it nice and simple. So I kind of like those colors. They're quite nice. I'm going to bring back my top weight, bring it on top and just color pick, applying the same style. Now, there are a few ways of bringing it into After Effects because in my eyes, this is now ready to sort of animate and bring to life. You could save this as an Illustrator document and quite literally drag and drop that straight into After Effects. It's a nice, simple way. Or, there's plugins. Plugins help speed us up. They help sort of make things faster. So I'm going to use a plugin called Overlord by Battleaxe. Down here, so what this is going to do, this is going to basically take my entire selection and drop it straight into After Effects. So if I go into After Effects, I'm going to make sure I've got a composition ready. I'm going to leave it as 1400 pixels. I'm going to go quite a low frame rate, and then I'm just going to use 4 seconds. So whenever I'm doing anything like this, I try to keep my duration set to an even number so that when I'm planning frames, I can keep it to even numbers. It makes it easier to sort of divide and work out timings and loop times and all that kind of stuff. So let's do this. And I work very tidy and very neatly. So everything is named, everything's colorized and organized. That way you don't get lost and you don't sort of lose your way, as it were. So I'm going to use this Overlord plugin and we're going to push this selection straight to After Effects. And there we are, ready to animate and to bring to life. And now what I want to do is some of these bits will get pulled out and get shifted around, but I still want to keep nice and tidy and make sure I'm keeping track of everything that I'm doing. So if I go back into Illustrator, now I'm going to bring this in. There we go. And then let's go morning heavy. So the important thing, like I said, about bringing this in is making sure these layers are in the same place. So they currently have the same baseline. That's going to be really important when these are morphing together, because if they don't have the same baseline, you're going to copy the keyframes and it's going to shift. And it's going to be kind of like an unnecessary thing that you're going to have to sort out. So back into After Effects. So now what I'm going to do here is get this morphing. So each of these letters within this group, within this master group, is a path. So we have different paths for different letters. We have our stroke layer and we have our gradient fills. So it's exactly what we built in Illustrator, just shifted into After Effects. So what I'm looking for are the paths. These are the paths, these individual points and these individual shapes. This is how you get things moving and morphing, by looking at how these letters are built and what sort of vector points and how many sort of anchor points they have. So what I want to do is I want to scroll down to the bottom. I'm going to select all of my paths, click and drag in, and I'm going to press U, which is just going to highlight my animated portions and my animated keyframes. Then I'm going to come into here and do exactly the same. Find my paths, scroll down, get them all selected. Now, this is fun bit because it's quite easy to make these morph. So all I have to do is select I'm going to go select my heavy keyframes here, copy them, go back down to my light paths. We're going to go, let's go 6 frames, nice quick. And then we can paste these in. And we have one little error, but other than that, it's really smooth. So this is what I mean. If these, depend on how letters and fonts are built, this is a perfect example of how things can go wrong and why they go wrong. So you see here, my paths are shifting. That could well be because when I've copied my layers over, you can see path 1 here is the top of my mark, path 2 is the bottom. So if I select the top here, look for my morning here, paste it in. Is that going to do it? Paste it in here maybe? No. So sometimes when you're copying these keyframes, for example, I can't just copy my G keyframe here and put it on a random letter. If I put it on here, because what that's going to do is it's just going to do this. You get all this scrambled mess, all these sort of errors. So if you ever get something like that, you can either do it manually or for the sake of this, I'm just going to remove those keyframes completely, pull out that path and just have one word. We'll lose the point for time here, but if we're now looking for a nice sort of smooth motion. It's got a nice little animation to it. So now I can get rid of this. This was my old layer. So this is kind of just like a holding layer now. And I don't really need that. So I'm going to pull that out and just concentrate on my sort of key bit of type here. So it's got a nice little motion to it. So now what I would normally do is check out how far I've put this in 6 frames. And then I'm either going to go forward 6 frames. And then I'm going to either press function F9, or little emojis, function F9, or we can right click, go to keyframe assistant, which is probably out of the screen, and basically select easy ease. So now you get a nice kind of smoother motion. And then what I would normally do is I would normally select these, go into my speed graph, and give these a little sort of push along here. Some people use the value graph for animating these points. Me personally, I've always used the speed graph. So for the speed graph, what we're looking at here is each of these points has this kind of this rhythm to it. So that means that by dragging these points to the edges, our type is going to animate really fast, and then it's going to ease into its thickest state and then do the same on its reverse. So that when we play that, there's a nice bit of pace to it. Kind of, that's what we're looking for. Yeah, that's nice. Right. So then what I would do is there are expressions you can use to sort of loop these out, and you can paste them into each letter and paste them into the path, and it gets a bit complicated. Most of the time when I'm looking at that kind of stuff, I Google it. I will quite literally Google how to loop a path expression in After Effects. And it's a very long, complicated sort of expression. But what I'm going to do for the sake of this is I'm just going to copy and paste these in here. So now we're getting a bit of a loop. And remember, I'm working evenly. So I know that every 6 frames, however, wherever I am on my keyframes here, I've chosen 12 frames for a reason. So that's now going to animate. It's going to animate one time within my 12-second loop. But what I want to do, because I want to offset some of these letters, is let's just make this, let's make it 3 seconds. So now we have a nice loop. I'm going to make sure my pan or my anchor, my sort of key anchor, is in the middle by holding Command and double clicking this. And then I'm going to just center align this. So now it's nice and in the middle of my composition. So now I want to give this a bit more emphasis and a bit more fun. So I'm going to use this motion tools panel. So there's other ways around this, but this is something I use to sort of shortcut moving things and sort of stepping layers, basically. So what I would do if I didn't have this is I would select my pan behind and drag this to the bottom. You can have snapping on, which does help make it nice and snappy. It then would lock to your bottom position. And the idea for this is to add a bit of scale. So I'm going to press S for scale, put a keyframe, and then the idea is at its thickest point is to stretch right up. And then at its lowest point, back to normal. And then if we press F9 here, we can either copy the exact same rhythm, and then there are much quicker expressions for looping your basic transform properties. So here I'm going to press Option, click on my layer, and I'm going to go type loop and select loop out. So that now it's got a nice bounce, looking fun, good rhythm. That's cool. So I want to offset these letters now. Now, one way you can do it, which is it's quite lengthy, but it's the way to do it if you don't have plugins like this, is you can select each layer, duplicate this up however times, how many letters there are, and go through and you could delete them one by one like this. So you could go through, delete, and so on. So that way you're starting to have each of these letters as its own property. It's got its own layer. However, if you have plugins that make things quicker, like motion tools, what I can do here is I can basically explode my group. And in doing so, I now have individual layers. However, when I'm exploding some things, sometimes my anchor points are going to shift. So I'm just going to reorganize those, whack them to the bottom. So we're getting some nice rhythm, nice stretch now. And what I want to do is, because these are overlapping, I'll kind of want to overlap them this way. So I'm going to click and select all of these. A little line, bang, bang. That's looking quite cool. I'll just move it over a little bit. Good bounce, good rhythm. So now I mentioned I was looping some things out. So what I'm going to do is you can either sequence these or do them by hand. I'm just going to do them by hand for the sake of this. I'm going to move across each letter. One frame, one frame, one frame, one frame, one frame, and one frame. And then I'm going to drag these out slightly so that now, yeah, got a nice little rhythm going. Pretty fun, pretty bouncy. You notice one thing that's going wrong here is because I'm stretching my letters that have strokes on them, I'm getting this awful thick stretching here. So my remedy would be to take off my stroke, go on here, layer, add a stroke. This will then retain its width and its thickness throughout the stretching, which is almighty handy, so that now you can see your strokes staying the same. It's really nice. And the beauty of that is I can just paste on every layer and it puts it on. Remember, working neatly. Name your layers. Just name your layers. Color them. Make them pretty. Name your layers. Right. That's nice. Let's go over to here. It's looking pretty fun. So now I might make this, add another level of complexity to this, make an actual sticker out of it. So if we go in here, I'm going to paste my composition into this layer. And then let's change the background so I can see the black. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this layer, add another layer style, which is my stroke, to my entire composition. Make it white. And we're going to thicken that right up. We have to go quite thick because we've got some gaps running here. So if we go really thick, move them over a little bit, just so nice and central. And we have it. We've got kind of like a nice, fun, bouncing, morphing sticker. It's got a bit of character, a bit of personality. Sometimes you get little gaps here. So for that, I would quite literally just make a cover layer. Find when and where it's needed. So there, position, scale it up. That should cover my entire O. So now, yeah, nice. It's cool. It's got a nice bounce. And then if I was going to add another layer of complexity to it, I would add yet another layer, add another layer style, make this one black. So we have a stroke on a stroke on a stroke. Just pop this around the edge. Nice and thick. So it's matching the rest of it. So there you have like this uber layered stroke effect. If I add a little bit of paleness to it, go up here. Oh, blue's nice. There we go. A nice bouncy sticker. Oh, got a little bit of error there. So to do that, I would either take off my cover or I would pre-comp these and add sort of another layer to it. But for the sake of this, that's cool. That's fun and it's nice. And I would export this add to my render queue. And I would go MOV alpha, or if you don't know, QuickTime, RGB and alpha. That would then rattle out a transparent background. You're done. Happy animated sticker making, everybody. Hope you've enjoyed it and go and have fun. See what you can make. Enjoy.